Okay. Recording in progress. All right. It is now 5:05. We'll call the meeting to order. And let's see, just by looking at who's here, it looks like we have a quorum. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Do we have minutes to approve from the last meeting? I didn't see, I might have overlooked that, but do we have to approve anything from the last time we met?
I don't believe so.
It was only that 5-minute quick meeting just to touch base, I think, and wasn't that it?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, we haven't had a meeting in a while. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to citizen comment. Other than Mr. Ballantyne, who's a reporter from the Norwich Bulletin, I don't see any other citizens on the Zoom, and there does not appear to be anybody calling in at this point. So we can pass that for now. Any old business?
No.
Okay. So let's turn to new business. We have a request for an advisory opinion. It's been designated as 2021-1.
Can I interrupt you, Scott, for a moment?
Sure.
Does not Trevor have to be out of the meeting now if this is new business, or no?
I don't.
This is a public meeting, unless it's an executive session. I can.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure about.
Yeah, and I was going to say I don't think we have to go into executive session to discuss an advisory opinion. So
Awesome.
So I think we're good. I circulated previously a copy of the letter from Mr. Kalsa. You guys each have seen that, I trust.
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Kalsa is serves on the NCDC and was recently, as a citizen, and was recently elected to the city council, and sent a letter asking our opinion as to whether he can continue to serve on the NCDC board as a community member, even though he's now also a member of the city council. So he did not fill out the form that's online. The request, there's a request form that you guys may remember from the last time we had either a complaint or a request for advisory opinion. He did not fill out that form, but rather than reject his request on that basis, I figured we should discuss it anyway, because I'm not even sure that it comes within the ethics code. And so by reading his letter, I assume he's questioning whether there's a conflict of interest presented. Is that how you all construed it as well, or did anyone think that some other portion of the code might be implicated?
No, I saw it as a conflict of interest. And I guess I thought it would be helpful for me to understand how NCDC and the city council interact. What is the overlap there? And then tell us whether there's a conflict.
Yeah, so my understanding is the NCDC there's a board that makes up the membership of the NCDC. And as part of that, there's a certain number of positions that go to members of the community at large, and members of the city council can also sit in on the meetings and serve on the board. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's my understanding is that there's both citizen input and council person input. But so since I'm chair, I'll just start with my thoughts. And then you guys can chime in. I mean, I don't think that well, to the extent that I understand the concern he's raising, I don't think that that a conflict of interest is presented. I think the question of whether a recently elected council person who was already serving on the NCDC board as a citizen can continue to do so is really between is really up to the NCDC board. And he represented that, at least to me, he called me just to give me a heads up that this was coming. He indicated to me that he had spoken to members of NCDC and they indicated that they did not see an issue with that. But out of an abundance of caution, he wanted to run it by us. I don't think that this even really comes under the ethics code. He's not, there's no interest, particular interest that runs to him by his, continuing to serve on that board. He's not getting anything of value to himself by serving on it. So I don't see an ethical issue there. And I don't really think it falls under the ethics code, but I wanted to see obviously what you guys think about it. So, why don't I just go in the order by which I see people on the screen. So Robin, what are your thoughts?
I think if it already exists, that there have been city council folks on the NCDC board, why it's probably not going to be any different now. I would have thought if there was an ethical issue with it, it would have been addressed by now. I don't see an issue. I think that I would think if there was anything that did arise, my guess is somebody would make him recuse himself from any sort of vote or anything to begin with. So I don't see it as an ethics commission issue either.
Lori, how about you?
I would agree. I don't see a conflict in the setting that it's presented. He is part of it already. He's aware of his new position, and I think he was just making sure there was no outlying opposition that he wasn't aware of.
Yeah. Okay. Cammie?
Yeah, I agree. I think if there's, let's say he has a great idea for a development in Norwich and it's all about him, then there would be a conflict and he'd have to recuse himself from the vote on the city council. And so that's the only problem I could see. Yes, and everybody knows, so
Right.
I'm sure he would recuse himself.
Sure. Yeah, right. I mean, any question where he stands to benefit one way or the other, he'd have to recuse himself from that. But otherwise, I don't see any concern from the ethics code. From the perspective of an ethics code violation, I don't see any issue with him continuing to serve on the NCDC as a community member, and the council can obviously decide for themselves who they want on the board. So I think it's really between them as opposed to us.
I guess I have one more thought, and that is there a council member actually on the board, or does that council member just attend meetings? Because I guess when you're on the board, you get paid for being on the board. And I don't know whether that makes any difference to us even if that's true. I don't even know if it's true, but I think it is true. And does it make any difference?
Yeah, again, I'm not entirely certain how it's structured. I think that they sit in an advisory capacity, but I'm not entirely certain on how
Mhm.
that works. I frankly didn't really research that. I reviewed the code, but I didn't research NCDC. So
Yeah. And
again,
does it,
don't know that it matters though.
yeah, I don't, yeah, that's my question. I don't think it matters, especially because it's right out there and I'm sure that he would recuse himself. And if he didn't, someone on the city council would say, hey, shouldn't you be recusing yourself?
Right.
So,
I would hope that an NCDC other member would also ask him to do that. So
Yeah, no, I mean, he certainly would seem to be a very above board and ethical person, certainly based on the knowledge that I have of his dealings up until this point. And I think, by writing this letter, he certainly shows an abundance of caution in that respect. So, I would then suggest that I draft a letter response to him indicating that we have considered the issue, considered his letter, and that based on the information known to us, we feel that the subject matter is outside the code, the ethics code, and that we see no problem with him continuing to serve as a member of the NCDC. That sound all right?
agreed.
I agree.
So I will draft that in the time. Well, I think under the rules I have 60 days to do it, but I'll probably get it out before the end of the week.
yeah,
Just so
Why you're the chair.
So, other than that, I have no other new business unless anyone else has anything that they wanted to raise.
I don't.
No,
Okay,
No.
very good. Well, let me just say Merry Christmas to those of you who will be celebrating this weekend, and well, we're not gonna meet till at least sometime next month. So Happy New Year as well.
Okay.
And I wish everyone the best for 2022, and hopefully
not 2020, also 2022.
2022. I know so far it looks like it's going to be
Yeah.
a continuation of 2021,
Yeah.
which was a continuation of 2020. So it's 2019
Not
was the
exciting.
good old days.
Correct.
Yeah, 2019 was a pretty good year.
2019 was a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old days.
Yeah,
All right.
fun.
It was nice to see everyone.
Okay, same here.
Sorry,
Best
Scott,
wishes.
I do have a question. I don't know if I can be recognized.
Sure, Trevor, go ahead.
One thing I'm curious about is Rebecca Alberts is the vice chair of the NCDC.
Okay.
And they recently received money to open up a new space in Norwich for these guys. Or she, in her private capacity, is a co-owner of These Guys Brewing Company, and I just didn't know if that was something that had come under this board for review.
Well,
No.
we only review matters that are brought to our attention either as a request for an advisory opinion such as this, or a complaint if a complaint is filed. So unless it's raised in one of those manners, that's the only way that an issue comes before us. But So I can't speak to that. I don't, have any specifics on that or any information on that.
I have a thought. What is the NCDC's job? Isn't it to encourage people to be investing in businesses in Norwich? I mean,
I think they also seek out businesses outside of Norwich and make it appealing to them, correct?
yeah,
Yeah, it's the Economic Development Agency of this, for the city.
and so
Yes,
is it,
Trevor, I don't know, specifically what you're referring to, like, when you say they recently got money, can you elaborate? I mean, even though it's not really,
Well,
And-
I can, I just understand that, they got a grant from NCDC, and that she might have voted on the issue. Unfortunately, the NCDC minutes and agendas are not updated, so it's kind of hard to tell. But if she was voting on a decision to grant her own business money, I was just wondering if that would fall under this board's jurisdiction.
potentially, I would need to know more before I could give you an answer, really an answer on that.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, anything else?
no?
Nope.
All right. Well, happy holidays, everyone, and
You too.
we'll.
Excuse me,
We
Scott.
need a motion to,
Thank you.
Say, do we need a motion to adjourn? I think we do.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Okay. So again, happy holidays, everyone. We'll adjourn the meeting at 5:22 and see you next time.
Same to all of you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.